So this is another chapter in a saga that is Kyrie Irving. And for the past week or so, there have been a lot of talks about whether or not Boston is attractive enough after his contract is up. Will he resign there? Will he go to New York? Will he, rejoin LeBron in LA? Will he, I don't know, team up with Kevin Durant and all this other stuff? And I don't know. It's at this point, man. It's almost become tiring, man, because people. In this video, Chris Broussard and Rob Parker are trying to make arguments that the Celtics need Kyrie Irving to win, and that they're a better team with him on the floor. And I'm not saying that he's not. I'm not saying that he's not a great player. I'm not saying that he's not somewhat of a superstar, even though I don't know if I would consider him a superstar because, I mean, when he won his championship, he had the likes of Kevin Love and LeBron James to go along with him. He's a dynamite scorer. He's gotten better as a defender since he's arrived in Boston, but there's still that black hole that is Kyrie Irving, the leader of a team. His first 2 years, he was the leader of that team. And what I mean by leader is, I mean best player. He goes, the team goes. That type of thing. And there were 2 years where they didn't make the playoffs. They didn't look particularly impressive. But then last year, he was traded to Boston. And people were hot and cold to start off with Kyrie being in Boston. They didn't know how it would go. And a lot of people criticized him for his decision to leave LeBron James. And it was amplified when Cleveland beat the Boston Celtics first game of the season. It was like a 4-point win, 5-point win, but he beat him. And then the following game they lost to Milwaukee. Everybody thought, oh my God, I think Kyrie Irving might have made a huge mistake. Then what happened? I believe that was when they went on that 16-game win streak. And they looked unstoppable. I believe until they met up with the Orlando Magic. I believe it was the Orlando Magic. They were the ones to stop the win streak, I believe. I have to go back to look that up. But this, ever since then, there have been a thought in my head. Does Kyrie give us the best chance to win a title? Is he the piece that we need, the centerpiece, to steer us towards a championship? Because there's really no concrete frame of reference that proves that he can do it. I mean, he hit the game-winning shot in the finals to beat the Golden State Warriors in Game 7, sure. But just because he hit a game-winning shot in the finals does not mean that he's ready to lead a team on his own. So they're going to talk. I'm just going to commentate here and there.
Without Kyrie Irving again last night, but once again, it didn't to improve to 9-2 without Kyrie in the lineup. The Celtics are now tied for the fourth in the East with the Sixers. Kyrie can become a free agent at the end of the season, and he hasn't set in stone if he'll be back in Boston next year. Former Celtic Antoine Walker was on First Things First this week and was asked about Kyrie's future in Boston. Take a listen.
Do I think he's going to stay? No. I believe he's going to leave. I think Kyrie's has shown us it's not about necessarily winning championships with him. I think New York is probably the place that presents the best option for him for what he wants to do. With the shoe deal he has with Nike, the individual where he can be a starter going back home. I just don't think he's a true Celtic. It's like when you're a Celtic, you kind of want to be there. I played there 7 years of my career. I saw Paul Pierce there. I know how true Celtics are. I don't think Kyrie's yet a true Celtic and believes he's a true Celtic.
Oh, he's not a true Celtic.
Now, there were a few things there that Antoine Walker said that I agree with. There was one thing he said that I didn't agree with. The thing that I didn't agree with was, I believe the competitor that Kyrie is, he wants to win. If he does not win in Boston, it does not shut the people up that believes he made a mistake by leaving LeBron. It does not shut them up. And he needs that to separate himself from LeBron, because see, this LeBron is like a black hole, man. A lot of stars in the NBA, they come in touch with a black hole and it's gone. You know, now your career is tied to theirs. I'm pretty sure when somebody says Chris Bosh, most people that were supporters of the Miami Heat era, where they had their big three, or people that really didn't watch it, that were like casual basketball fans that just watch a game if it's on TV or something like that, they will associate Chris Bosh with LeBron, not Toronto. Chris Bosh was a star. I wouldn't call him a superstar because he never really won anything with them, but he was a star, a mega star. I mean, he was very talented, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people would only associate his career with being in Miami and winning those titles. And Kyrie doesn't want to be that. Kyrie does not want to be a player, just like Kevin Love will be that. Kevin Love, about 20 years from now, when people talk about Kevin Love and talk about the history of the game and they talk about Kevin Love, they're going to think Kevin Love in Cleveland. A lot of casual fans are going to forget that Kevin Love ever came from Minnesota. And he was a beast. Even though he was a beast on a bad team, he was still a beast. And that's why Cleveland traded for him. They gave up a bevy of first-round talent for him. Even though that talent it hasn't been capitalized on, especially Anthony Bennett, but they still gave up a lot for him. At that time, they gave up a lot for him. So, I didn't agree with that. I think Kyrie, being a competitor he is, he wants to win. And he wants to win this year. He wants to win this year badly. Now, if he doesn't win, this is the one thing I will give him. I will give Antoine Walker benefit of the doubt of. If Kyrie does not win this year, I don't think it's going to hurt him as much as, some people believe it should if he doesn't win this year. Like, if he doesn't win, it's gonna annoy him. He's probably gonna be upset about it. But come free agency, it's gonna be in the rear view, and he's gonna move on. And the two things that I agree with Antoine Walker is, I've already said this: Kyrie's not coming back. Kyrie is leaving, and he won't come back, and that's fine. Because I think this team needs to move forward with these young guys. And the other thing that he said was Kyrie not being a true Celtic. 100% agree. Because in order to be I won't even say true Celtic. In order to be invested in this city, because he's not invested in this city. And he's not invested in the team. He's not invested in the city. And in order for him to, I don't know, he comes off as a little aloof. Like he just doesn't give a shit. So I don't think that he has any long-term investment in this team. I don't think he has any long-term investment in the city, and I think he's going to be out. Most likely, he's going to go back to New York, play close to home. I believe he's from New Jersey, so he's going to try to be as close to home as possible. So New York is probably as close as you can get, I believe. Maybe Brooklyn, I'm not sure. But that's where he's going to go. He's not going to come back.
Chris, what do you think? Is Kyrie getting too much heat?
Well, I'm going to give Antoine the benefit of the doubt and say he means it in that he doesn't think Kyrie's heart is into being a Celtic. I don't think he's saying Kyrie doesn't have the makeup, the game, and all that of it.
No, that's what you got from it. Obviously, Antoine Walker means that he's not committed to being here. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
True Celtic. I'm just going to give him that credit. However, that other people talking, all the rumblings, yes, Kyrie is catching too much heat. I know, Greg, you're going to say they're better without.
Kyrie is catching too much heat in terms of he's the reason, but it's not his fault. He's the reason, but it's not his fault. Now, two things need to happen for this whole experiment to work. Two things need to happen right now. Like during this that's why I already said, man, Kyrie needs to miss the All-Star break. Brad Stevens needs to let him know, look, you can't play. And he needs to let Jason Tatum know you can't play. And I don't know if Jaylen Brown, Terry Rozier, I don't know if those guys are a part of the Rising Stars game. But whoever is involved in All-Star Weekend, he needs to tell them you can't play. Because they need to figure this shit out. Now, Brad Stevens' whole attitude towards it is, they need to play better. We'll figure it out. And by the end of the season, you'll know if we were able to get it done or not. That's not good enough from the head coach. If I'm Danny Ainge, I'm pulling Brad Stevens in the office and I'm asking him, why the hell would you say that? And if that's how he really feels, I'm not saying they should fire him, but they need to figure something out, man, because this season, I'm not going to say everybody. A lot of people looked at this season as being the year Boston versus Golden State is going to happen. This team was way too deep. You may have needed to make some moves before the trade deadline to try to solidify the lineups, make sure that everybody was comfortable with the roles and everybody was committed to the role 100%. Because that's the only way you're going to win. But they didn't make any moves. So now you just go out there with the horses you have. But you have to make sure that everybody buys in. Now, like I said, two things need to happen. Either those young guys need to conform to Kyrie's, I don't know why I said that, Kyrie's way of playing, or Kyrie needs to conform to the team, like to the other guys' way of playing. Which means if Kyrie conforms to their way, he has to get the ball out of his hands. He has to pass everybody needs to share possessions. Everybody needs a chance to bring it up the floor. So that way nobody's bitching over who gets to touch the ball and all this other stuff. Because, I mean, you know, when I watch games of the Celtics, it looks like Kyrie, for at least the first 10 seconds of the shot clock, he has the ball in his hands. He's facilitating. I'm not going to call him a ball stopper, but that's what it looks like. And that's what those young guys are getting. They're getting that. That's what their opinion is, that he's a ball stopper. Because when they play without him, you see the ball moving constantly. You may see one-on-one here, one-on-one there, you may. But the ball is constantly moving. When Kyrie's on the floor, he's the primary ball handler. And that's the problem. That's the problem for a lot of them. Now, the problem I believe with Jason Tatum is different. Jason Tatum wants to be the perceived future leader of this team. And he is. But he sees Kyrie and he sees the team's willingness to go hardcore at resigning Kyrie as, this may not be my team. You know, when I assumed that I was going to take control, this may not be my team. And if they do sign Kyrie long term, Jason Tatum will have to conform to Kyrie. Because Kyrie will be the leader of the team for the next, 5 years? Even though I don't think Kyrie will stay, but that's just the notion that Jason Tatum gets. And that's what the problem is. See, it's not his fault, but he is the problem. And Brad Stevens is the solution. Brad Stevens needs to fix this. He needs to fix this. And that's why All-Star break, you know, there shouldn't be an All-Star break for them. They should be practicing. They should be seriously running scrimmages every single day through the weekend, trying to figure this shit out. Because if they go into the playoffs with this same wedge that's in the team right now, they won't win shit and they may get bounced out in the first round. So, let's go.
Fouled him because they're 9-2. Well, guess what? Toronto is 13-3 without Kawhi Leonard. Are they better without Kawhi Leonard?
Are we talking about Toronto?
Okay, that's a no. That's a no. All right. Look, Boston can be good, really good without Kyrie.
All right. Now here's the whole thing with the records without their leading players. If you go back and you look at the teams that those guys play with Kawhi out, with Kyrie out, it'll probably explain why the records look great without them there. both Boston and Toronto are extremely talented teams. So, depending on who they play, will determine whether or not that's a valid argument. Because even though Toronto is 13-3, they could be playing sub 500 teams. And that's the thing about the regular season, man. You can't get caught up too much on the numbers, man, because you're playing a lot of different talent every single night. You may not play the top tier talent. In the playoffs, you're playing top tier talent every single night. Every game night, you're playing top tier talent. Or during the regular season, you may have a team with the worst record mixed in, or the team that just lost half their lineup a week ago, or you don't know. There's so many different variables. But I'm gonna look that up. I'm gonna look at the teams when Kyrie and Kawhi wasn't playing, the teams they played, because I thought the last two games that Boston had were pretty impressive. Who did they play? They played Detroit last night. And they played somebody else. I forgot who. But Detroit, with Kyrie in there, Detroit is a handful because they have two really good big men. And they managed to hold them off. They managed to hold them off long enough to win, because at one point Boston was up by a lot, but slowly but surely Detroit started to come back. And that's usually how the games against Detroit go, is that Detroit gives Boston everything they can handle. So for them young guys to beat that team, I thought it was a pretty impressive win, especially with the way they were playing.
We saw that the other night in Philadelphia, against Philadelphia. But they can't win.
Philadelphia, that's the team. Philadelphia. Thought it was impressive. They added Tobias Harris. Everybody started talking about this team as being probably the favorite now in the East. And they manhandled them. I mean, Philly managed to bring the game back in close, as they should have. They're talented. But those young guys manhandled them. So,
the championship without him. And in Boston, it's about titles. They have more than anybody else. That's what it's about. Kyrie Irving is clutch. He is a winner. He, along with Ray Allen shot in Miami, are arguably the two biggest shots in NBA history. Certainly in modern day NBA history. And he hit it with ice
and this is what I don't understand, and this is the problem with a lot of these arguments. You're telling me that Kyrie Irving is a clutch winner off of one NBA final shot. Clutch winner. He's a winner. Even though when he was in Cleveland, everybody, including Chris Broussard, loved to bring up Kyrie didn't win anything before LeBron got there. Isn't that the argument that you always make, Chris Broussard? Kyrie didn't win anything until LeBron got there. Now he's a winner. Now that he's in Boston, he's a winner. And I don't know if they made the point yet. I might have missed it, but I watched a little bit of this, and one of them made the point that Boston can't win. I believe it was Rob Parker. He didn't say it yet, but he said Boston can't win without Kyrie. This is why they were up 2-0 to Cleveland, and they lost in the finals because they needed Kyrie. But Milwaukee didn't come up in the conversation. The manhandling Philadelphia didn't come up in the conversation. Them taking LeBron James to 7 games didn't come up in the conversation. Not having Gordon Hayward the whole year. Kyrie going out, like 2 weeks before the playoffs even started, 3 weeks? Shit, maybe even a month. Who knows? I mean, I don't know right now. I got to look this shit up. But, yeah, I mean, he went out before the playoffs started. So, to make an assumption like they needed Kyrie, you don't have any frame of reference to substantiate that claim. Because Kyrie's only been there for 1 year. 1 full year. Last year. He wasn't there the year before. He never got them to the finals before. So how can you say that he can get them there if he's never gotten them there before? Honestly, he's never gotten there without LeBron. So how can you say he can't even get there? And this is the problem with a lot of these arguments, man. They're made out of emotion instead of fact. Instead of actual fact. The fact is, Kyrie has never won anything. Won anything without LeBron. Shit, he's never made the playoffs without LeBron. He didn't even make the playoffs last year because he didn't play. He didn't play. If you go out before the playoffs start, you didn't make the playoffs. The team got the playoffs. I'm sorry. That's just the way I look at it. Who you start the playoffs with, it's like the whole Nick Foles, Carson Wentz thing. Who you start the playoffs with is who you start the playoffs with. Carson Wentz helped them win games. Yeah, hell yeah. But they won with Nick Foles, man. And that can't be overshadowed. And that same thing goes for Kyrie, man. Those young guys did that work. And this is why they think they can do it. Because they went up against great talent every single night. And they showed up. Rozier showed up. Brown showed up. Tatum showed up. Al Horford showed up. Marcus Morris. Marcus Smart. When Marcus Smart got back, it was a whole... it was a whole different dynamic, man. So you can't say that Kyrie can get them there if he's never proven that he could get them there before.
His veins. When you're playing with the best player in the world, and the best player in the world goes to you at the end of the game.
Because LeBron isn't clutch. I'm talking ice in your veins with the intent to shoot the ball. A lot of those game-winning shots that LeBron shoot, the ball is just in his hands. It either finds his hands or there's not enough time for him to find a shot or orchestrate a shot for somebody else. That's why if LeBron has the ball with about 20 seconds on the shot clock, or 20 seconds on the clock, he has the ball in his hands and he's dribbling out that time, he's going to find somebody in the corner. He's going to find somebody that finds their way to get open. The only times I see LeBron hit game-winning shots in big games is when there's almost no time left on the clock. Like maybe 10 seconds or less. Where it's not enough time to run a play to get open. And he'll take those shots. And he'll make a lot of them. Sure, Kobe made a lot of shots. There's a difference between making the shot and just putting up a shot and hoping it goes in. And that's a lot of times what LeBron does. Now, he's gotten better with his three-point shooting. I don't know about his mid-range game. I haven't seen that too much because usually when LeBron gets anywhere near the paint, he's finishing at the rim. But LeBron's not a clutch shooter, man. That's why he depended on Kyrie to make those shots. Because Kyrie is a lot more... He's a sharpshooter. He's a lot more effective with stuff like that. He lets them take that shot. He lets Korver, the Kyle Korvers, the Damon Jones, he let those guys take the shot. It's not that he trusted Kyrie to make the shot. He depended on Kyrie to make that shot because he couldn't do it. Otherwise, he would have shot that.
You know you a bad boy. Kyrie Irving is also at his best in the biggest moments, as I just explained, but against the best teams.
Now, he's going to throw out a whole bunch of points, numbers. Oh, Kyrie scored 35 here, 46 there, 45 there, 47 there, and they all won those games. If Kyrie is so goddamn great in big games, how come it took him 3 years to make the playoffs? Kyrie is just now becoming a complete player. He has never been a complete player. For the first, 2 years of his career, he was primarily a long-range shooter, because that's all you really see him do, and he was a ball handler. He wasn't a passer. He wasn't a defender. I mean, he could finish at the rim, sure. Then when LeBron got there, he started to utilize his below the rim game a little more, like, with layups and stuff like that. And I mean, he passed more, but I wouldn't even say that he was an assist guy. Now in Boston, he's a facilitator. You never really seen him be a facilitator before. He's a facilitator. He plays defense. Good defense. Actually, I believe there was a statistic. It was a defensive rating. And last year, he was top 5 in the defensive rating last year. So his game is starting to evolve. He's starting to become more of a complete player. And Kyrie's only 26. He still has at least a good, nine, not even that. Kyrie, from what I heard, Kyrie wants to retire. Not even soon. Probably pretty soon. Maybe after his next contract, which he'll be about 30 or 31. And he'll probably retire. But, yeah, man, Kyrie, look. Kyrie's a great player, man. But this team needs more than just a clutch three-point shooter in big moments.
This year, against Golden State, he drops 32 and 10 assists. This year, against the other juggernauts of the East, Philadelphia.
Now that I think about that Golden State game, wasn't that when before DeMarcus Cousins got there, Kyrie might have been hurt? I mean, Curry might have been hurt. They had some injuries on that team. Like to start the earlier this season. I gotta look it up. Jesus.
40 points, 10 rebounds.
Preach, Chris.
Against Toronto, 43 points, 11 assists. Against Milwaukee, 28 and 7, all W's.
And I would have to look at those shooting numbers as well. He's throwing out a lot of numbers. But the thing about numbers is they're subjective. If a person like I remember a couple years ago, OKC played I believe the Rockets in the playoffs when Patrick Beverley was still on the Rockets, and Russell Westbrook was bragging about how he scored 40 points or something like that, and he was talking about Beverley shutting him down. He laughed at it because he was like, "I got 40." But then Patrick Beverley came out and said, "Yeah, but it took you 35 shots to get there." Numbers could be subjective. They could be manipulated. He throwing out a whole lot of numbers, man. Kyrie has the ball in his hands a lot. I'm not saying that he's not a high percentage shooter, but he shoots. So you got to go back and look at those shooting stats, man, because he might be shooting a whole lot to get those numbers.
Yes, if you want to win a championship, you need Kyrie Irving, and no one knows that better than Danny Ainge. And with all due respect to Antoine Walker and his shimmy, all right, Danny Ainge knows more about being a Celtic than Antoine Walker. He won championships in their hallowed years in the 80s, and he built a championship team recently with the big...
Oh, God, here we go. Listen, Danny Ainge is a great executive, but in no way are you going to try to fucking convince anybody that Danny Ainge knew what it was to be a goddamn Celtic back when he was on those teams. You talking about the teams with Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Dennis Johnson. This dude played with Hall of Famers. I believe Cedric Maxwell was still on the team too, man. He played with Hall of Famers. He probably knows just as much as Antoine Walker about what it means to be a Boston Celtic, man. Come on, bro.
Three.
Handful of guys have ever done that. Right. One as a player and as an executive.
And Danny Ainge, for all the talk, for the gaudy 9-2 record without Kyrie, for all the talk that he might be leaving, he is dead set on we are bringing back Kyrie because he knows. Yes, Rozier's a nice player. Yes, Marcus Smart's a nice player. But if I want another ring, I need a superstar. That's
again, no frame of reference to go back to. That's just a statement, man. You're just making a statement right there. Not even a factual statement. It's just a statement you're making. It's not a fact. Kyrie has never been a winner without LeBron. I mean, he did a good job with helping the team win last year. But I'm talking about when I say winning, I mean extreme playoff success. That's what I mean by winning. Not just winning regular season games. Anybody could win regular season games, man. It takes a true winner to win in the playoffs. And this is what the importance of the playoffs means to athletes. Well, to some athletes. It's because your legacy, your what you leave behind as a player is what you do in the playoffs. And usually the guys that make arguments saying the playoffs is a team thing, is a team accomplishment, it really doesn't have any indication on who's great. A lot of people that make those assessments are either not winners or people that couldn't get the job done, or they're fans of people who couldn't get the job done. So they have to make an argument for whoever they like. But there's no frame of reference to go back to. All this is hyperbole. So I'm gonna let it play for a little while longer, then I'm gonna end this.
What Kyrie Irving is. You know, sometimes somebody can be dead set on what they want, but if
before Greg Jennings, I'm just going to end it right here, and I'm going to make a part 2, man, because Greg Jennings, for the past week, I found myself agreeing a lot with what he says when it comes to this Kyrie situation. So I'm going to make a part 2. All right.